Yo, so today I'm dispelling confusion around the VWAP's mechanics. We're going to talk about the calculation, volume weighted average price. What does that even mean? How is that calculated? And what is that daily reset mechanic that messes with your TA and seems to have as many drawbacks as it does benefits? So, what are those benefits and how do we use the VWAP in our favor? So to start off, what is the VWAP? It stands for volume weighted average price. And the way it's calculated is it's the cumulative price times the total volume. And then that's all in parentheses, and you're going to divide that by the cumulative volume. So the difference between total and cumulative here, they are somewhat interchangeable. Just by looking at those words, they're like near synonyms. But cumulative implies some sort of temporal component. So the total volume is like the start of the day, measured against the end of the day. Whereas cumulative is taking into account all the little increments and changes in volume throughout the day. So it's a very similar concept, but it's a different number, and it leads to, like, you would think that if you divide price times volume by volume, you would just get price, but these are different numbers, and it's that temporal component of the cumulative volume factor here that gives us this line and gives us our opportunities. And that's the best way I could describe this calculation. If you want a deeper explanation of this calculation, you're gonna have to go to someone with a college degree in this shit, because I'm just the flopping groper. I'm literally just a guy who got into trading in 2017 and I became a charting wizard. Okay, so don't expect me to know anything more about this VWAP calculation than this, but hopefully I described it good to you. So another aspect of the VWAP is that daily reset mechanic. In fact, there are VWAPs where the reset mechanic is a different period. It could be a weekly VWAP, it could be a monthly VWAP, a quarterly, or even a yearly VWAP. And so it is up to you to decide which type of VWAP you like to trade with. But the more frequently you have those daily resets, there's benefits and drawbacks to that. So the benefits are that it's going to reflect the intraday trend. Like, what is the trend for the day when you're sitting down at your trading session, like it's your job? What's the trend for the day? And oftentimes with simple moving averages or EMAs, like silly little lines that measure X amount of previous candles, the price can be running away from you, and the times where it hits that line are so rare and few and far between that you could go a whole day without getting a trade with a simple moving average or an EMA. Whereas the volume weighted average price, it's always going to give you opportunities to trade, because at that daily reset, the line snaps back up to the price action. And so that's probably the major benefit of the daily reset mechanic. It's also going to give you a fair value, like a line that tells you what the asset should be worth in theory. So when we're trading underneath that line, it means that the traders are undervaluing the asset. And if we're trading above that line, it means the traders are overvaluing the asset. And I think the last benefit of VWAP is the fact that it gives you a mindset of adaptability. By taking each day in little snippets, you can see like, oh, this, yesterday was a bullish day or a bearish day or a neutral day. And you see enough of those stacking up. And let's say you have like 3 bearish days in a row, and then you got a neutral day. Now that next day after that, you're kind of anticipating the bulls coming back and getting some vengeance. Like, you can sense the bulls being agitated and messed with for days. And you can sense when they're bubbling up and trying to do something. You can see their attempts on the VWAP playing out. And eventually they get that day where they get that pop on top of the VWAP. And so even though you may have this crazy bearish bias, the VWAP helps you to be adaptable and see each new day as a new, fresh opportunity. And these 3 benefits, are why VWAP is so powerful. And there are some drawbacks to VWAP. Obviously, you have a loss of continuity. So you may have like some pattern that you expected to happen. Like, let's say you thought that this line was going to keep going, and so you bet on a mean reversion. Like, you see the price coming up and the waves not going up, and so let's say you shorted this because you're thinking that it's going to come back down to the VWAP, right? Because we were at this like level of this previous high. But if you were to anticipate this reset coming, then you wouldn't have done that. So if you don't understand the reset mechanic, it can make you think that there is like a loss of continuity in your patterns. Another drawback of the VWAP is it's useless for swing traders. So since the VWAP is the same number, since it's not X amount of previous candles like a moving average, it's the same calculation regardless of time frame, which is a concept that new folks don't quite understand. But this is demonstrated by going up to higher time frames such as the 4-hour, the 8-hour, the daily, and look what happens to the VWAP line. It's just swiveling in and out of the candles in such a way that we really have no idea. It's not giving us any valuable information like this. And so it's relegated mainly to the 1-hour chart and below, and it is strictly a day trading scalping indicator. And so as a scalper, we don't care about this drawback. In fact, we like this. This is a good drawback for us because it's an indicator that's made for us. But if you're a swing trader, then the VWAP might give you some problems because you literally can't use the daily reset VWAP for scalp trades. So it's just not good for your long-term analysis. It's only good for the intraday scalping and the shorter moves and maybe the medium-term moves, but mostly the shorter moves. So the best times to trade with VWAP, there's a couple good times to trade with VWAP. I would say that, and it also depends on the market. Like the traditional markets will open around 9:30 New York time, and they go to like 4 or 5. I can't remember, but the crypto markets are 24/7, and so it's tough. Like every market is going to respond to VWAP differently. And crypto itself is 24/7, and so the crypto is at the whims of multiple market opens. There's the Chinese open, there's the European open, and the New York open, and all these things. And so taking all of this into account, I would say that the morning open for the traditional markets is a good time to look at the VWAP, because it's a good time to trade in general. That's where there's a lot of volume and liquidity and participants in the market. Another good time to trade the VWAP is during a reversal point, and so like a macro reversal. So regardless of the time of day, like this ETF decision, this big reversal with this sharp move down, the VWAP is a perfect guide, giving you the absolute best moments to enter for this continuation here. And so regardless of the time of day, if there is a large macro reversal, the VWAP is there to help you in that most volatile, scary time to keep on the trend and to get as much profit out of that strong trend as possible. So think about what the price is going through, not just specific times of day. Another time that you would want to trade with VWAP is anytime the volume surges. So anytime you start to see volatility, perhaps over a 2% deviation from the VWAP, that tends to lead to more a trending market over the VWAP. It doesn't happen all the time. For instance, here we had a 2.68% deviation from VWAP, but then we just went sideways for a couple days. So it's not a guarantee. But if you look at this other side here, once we got that 2% like diversion from the mean, that was the start of a larger continuation to the downside. And so anytime the price goes, I guess, maybe above like 2% away from VWAP, that's a good filter to see if like some volatility is coming. Because in my opinion, while VWAP does get you through consolidations and it's a steady guide in sideways price action and range bound price action, VWAP is the juiciest when you're in a trending market. So look for those volume surges and expect a trending market after that. And if the idea is wrong, that shouldn't be a problem because your risk is in check. Sometimes you got to risk it to get it. And then finally, the last time frame, or the last time that I would trade VWAP would not be the daily candle open, but probably the last 30% of the daily candle. So if you see like a day's worth of price action as a chart pattern in and of itself, when is the breakout of a chart pattern usually occur? It usually occurs in the last 30%, right? Like if you had a big triangle, in that last 30% of the triangle is usually when something happens, right? And the VWAP in this intraday price action works the same way. So at the end of a daily candle, there tends to be some sort of like volatile move as the traders like conclude the narrative of the day. And I guess I could try to demonstrate just some examples of this. And then that'll be the end of the video. But yeah, let's do some lines for our daily ranges here. We're going to just highlight all this stuff. And then we're going to go back on our scalp time frames. And so these little black lines represent when the VWAP reset on us here, every time a new daily candle closed. And so if we look at the last moves of every day, there tends to be something happening in the last 30% of the day, right? So we got something big going on here. I see, you know, this is an excellent play back down to the VWAP. You know, you expect that volatile move at the end of the day. We see the money flow coming down, the waves coming down. So let's see if this video ages well, and let's see if some end of day volatility affects us on the Bitcoin price here. But you can see like almost every single day, the last 30% of the day gives you a scalping opportunity. And it's also a safer point to trade because at this point, the pattern for the day is already established, right? Like you have a trend, like you see this, like, you know, over here, you see this like big downward shape and trumpet, and this is pinging around. And like toward the, as this matures, you get better and better and stronger indications. And like, yes, you definitely could have caught this. But by the time we get to the last 30% of the day, you see that pinging off the VWAP as resistance. And if you can get enough readings on Market Cipher B and all that to confirm a move like this, like you'll catch that move in the last 30%. So those are all the times that I would look to trade using the VWAP. You know, typically when you trade on the open of VWAP, a VWAP open can set the tone for the day. Like you definitely want to, when you sit down at your session, look at how the price reacted around that daily reset. But if you don't have a strong idea around this period when like the VWAP freshly resets, don't feel bad because you don't have that much information. And also, the first few wildebeest who go into the croc-infested waters tend to get eaten. Like if you were to short on a bearish day, sometimes it'll like right at the open, sometimes it'll come up, wipe you out, and then continue. So like that first move of the open did set the tone. That doesn't mean that those people are going to be the winners by the end of the day. So yeah, that's all the times I would trade VWAP, and that's the VWAP mechanics. So hopefully I dispelled some confusion for you guys.